What is good, everybody? Thank you for tuning in Walking Entertainment News. I am your host, DJ Bro. We have Douglas Reed on the line. How are you doing today, man?
I am doing wonderful. It's a beautiful sunny day. Who can complain? Nice day. You can still go out and enjoy the weather, and we got this nice recurrence of some fall weather, so I'll take it. Great day.
Yeah, we
How
love.
are you doing today?
Man, I'm alive, breathing, just living that life, just loving it. Every day is a new day, and especially when it's a beautiful one, that sun just comes and just, I don't know, to me, when you stand out in that sun for a minute and bask in it, it feels like it's really cleaning you. It's wiping all the bullshit.
I was out on the front porch having some coffee a while ago. It just, the crisp air and the hot coffee. Can't beat that. I love my coffee, that's for sure.
Right. So, let's start with who you are, what you do, what are you
Okay.
in?
Well, my name again is Douglas Reed. I come originally from my hometown. Originally is Sharon, Pennsylvania. I grew up there. I've been in the Milwaukee area since 1993. I got a job transfer here, and I am mainly a bass guitar player. I've played in a lot of local bands and also do a lot of fill-in work. I also play some keyboards, but that's not my main instrument. My main instrument is bass guitar, and but I do love the keyboards, synthesizers, and I'm pretty adept at programming them. So I grew up old school back when the knobs, and that's one of my fortes. I'm probably a better sound programmer than I am a player. Kind of a second side of me that people don't know. I enjoy synthesizers and stuff and programming for people I've done in the past. So
Awesome. Some examples of that synthesizing stuff that you really like going and doing.
well, I really enjoy a lot of the multi-tracking. Um, with MIDI and audio integration with multi-tracks, and I've also done some work for people that were doing like tracks on stage for live performance, integrating the synthesizers with the computer and getting them to talk to each other and playing the tracks and click tracks and stuff like that. Um, but my particular synthesizers I own a Kurzweil K2500 rack mount. I have a Yamaha MOD X7 and the Roland FA08, which is right behind me here. I really like digging down in the architecture just to see, to challenge myself to make it sound literally as exact to the record as I can, because a lot of your stock factory sounds, they approach it, but part of my problem of being an engineer is I get to be a perfectionist, and I spend hours on a sound just to accomplish, just so I can have my own personal satisfaction of accomplishing the sound nailed right to the T. So I enjoy that as kind of more of a hobby. I'm not like an Elton John player. I can't play all over the place. Like yeah, I can do like like She Blinded Me with Science. I can do the bass line and I can do that together. I call it like a Geddy Lee synthesizer, or Eddie Van Halen. Not too complicated, but but I enjoy it. That type of thing. But bass guitar is my main instrument.
How long have you been, dabbling in the music? Do you have a wild upbringing with it? And.
I've been playing bass guitar for 47 years now. I'm just calculating my head here. About 47 years.
Damn.
I play a little bit. I took about maybe about 5 or 6 years off. I kind of fell off the wayside when I had kids. Maybe 6 or 7 years. So I played off and on, mostly in my living room then, and that type of stuff. I'd pick it up maybe once every 5 or 6, 3 or 4 or 5 months and play for a week or two and then put it down. But I have 5 kids, so I end up, taking some hiatus time to to play, So, and so I had four of those kids in a short period of time. So I have two sets of identical twins in that mix. So they're all within 6 years of each other. So I was quite a busy man at one time.
Are they all still living with you, or how
I
old
have
are they? You know?
local. Yeah, one that lives local. He's a police officer. Um, the four other ones that do not live local, they went to the Marines, and then when they got out, they went to different parts of the country. So it's like every parent's worst nightmare. They scattered like marbles under the piano. One lives in Florida, one lives in Missouri, one lives in San Diego, the other one lives in Texas. But it's good. I get to go, fly and see them in the warm months like that, and I at least have a place to go. They come home, and we're still close, so we're a very close family, and we video chat all the time and that type of stuff. But in the end, when they're all done with their schooling, because when you're in the Marines, you delay your schooling and stuff. So in the end, of the five boys, I'll have four police officers and one that's probably headed more towards like a physician's assistant type of thing. Yeah. So, but they're great kids and
Nice.
very happy.
Sounds like
Yeah.
everybody's doing their thing well. You know. That's all.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's like, okay, yeah, you could say a parent's worst nightmare. Well, I mean, there's some parents out there with crackheads as kids.
I tell you, it's nice to see the fruit of your efforts. I can't complain about, of course, every parent's going to say that about their kid, but um, I really cannot complain about anything that I wish I would have done differently with bringing them up, because I see the fruits of the efforts of, and I get so many reports that people tell me, oh, your son is, such a gentleman. He's so polite and helpful, and and I'm like, wow, it's nice to hear those reports. But I think a lot of that too. That's why they went in the Marines and want to become police officers, because they want to serve the community and that type of thing. And some of them became musicians. They saw me playing, and they picked up the guitar, and I taught them some guitar chords and stuff, and some guitar fingering techniques. Because I'm not a guitar player. I know maybe 10 or 15 chords I can play, but I don't say I'm a guitar player. I mean, I can play 15 chords, campfire type stuff, but I'm not a guitar player. I can't justify calling myself that.
You ever think about getting on a project with the local son?
He is not really into music. The one that's local, just he's all well, they're all testosterone induced kids. Wrestling, energy. That's probably why they went to the Marines. It's probably why they want to be police officers. But the one local, I just couldn't get him interested in music. He'd rather slam people in the wrestling mat at that time of the life. So.
Their mom, you still married? Same woman?
No, I'm not married. No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
divorced long ago. Yeah, yeah. But she lives local too, and so that's nice, because when the kids come home, they can see mom and dad together.
Oh, so you
Yeah,
guys are all still cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is awesome. There's a lot of people that can't do that. There's a lot of people that as soon as there's an issue, they split apart. So low key, there's some wisdom to be had there. What advice would you give to parents that are having a hard time keeping their families together? The holidays are coming up, and people are wondering where everybody's going, and everyone's realizing everyone's splitting up. Kind of advice you got to keeping a family together like that?
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that. My advice is, first of all, I've always taught my kids, okay, that what you need to do is you need to look at mom, you need to look at dad. You need to choose the best qualities of dad. You need to choose the best qualities of mom and blend yourself into that person. And look at dad's not so good qualities and mom's not so good qualities and learn from them. Work together for the benefit of your kids, and don't, talk bad about the other parent type of thing, because they need you both as a support. And that's how kids come out to be well developed, if you give that environment. That's my I'm an engineer. I'm not a counselor, but that's my 15 cent, or maybe it's worth 2 cents. Maybe it's worth a cent. I don't know.
No, that's a good solid quarter right there, at least. One of them old ones
Yeah.
that are actually worth something. Let's get back on the music. You said that you had a few different synthesizing rigs you use for your different things.
Yes. Most, a lot of the bands I've played in, I have not played my keyboards. But when I was in a band, I used to be in a block party. I played bass and keys in that band. Um, I was in a project that it somehow, unfortunately, beyond my control. There was a band some time ago that we were putting together. There was going to be mostly synth pop 80s,
Hey,
and that band there was really heavy synthesis. We had three keyboard players, um, and a lot of that, 80s synthesis music. There's four or five keyboard parts going at once. So that band was set up. We had, sometimes I created all the tracks that, like, and it wasn't karaoke. I mean, people when they hear the word track say, "Oh, karaoke." I don't agree with that. I can name 50 bands right now that are using tracks, local and national acts. As long as you're not. What I don't like is if there's a keyboard part playing and there's no keyboard player on stage. I have a problem with that.
right.
Okay? But if there's a keyboard player or two and you're playing and there's a third part helping with maybe a couple horn stabs or something like that, that's perfectly fine to me. That's my belief. But so that band that I was doing, uh, I was pretty heavily involved with all the MIDI implementation between the keyboards and the multi tracks and mixing the audio and synchronizing it with the time clock and the click track and with the in-ear monitors and stuff. But unfortunately, a month before that happened, something happened in the band that and it folded. All that hard work, but
It wasn't
so
wasted because you found out a lot of cool stuff that now you know that you can do now, and you have it all set up for when you find, other like-minded people.
right.
I kind of agree along the same lines, there as far as, because you got people like Quentin Kufal that go out and, he has every other instrument being played through the track, except the drums, which, he's on. So it's like there are times where there are instruments that are really hard to get a hold of. It's like, well, not every band has, like you said, horn players or like a cello player or something. So it's like, or just some random sound effects before or in between a song. All of that stuff is really good and it helps with keeping everybody tight and on time, because people that don't use those click tracks, or even at least metronomes, during practice, have a lot harder time keeping neat. Those synthesizers and those different things and the click tracks really force people to be really tight and neat and clean, which overall puts on a lot better performance. So like there is a good and a bad with those. I don't really see too much of a bad, except don't you need like Wi-Fi for those?
No,
I'm not
no.
sure how all that works, honestly.
Yeah, that comes from the on the output of your sound card. Like you have a sound module. I like to I use an external sound module that connects through the from the computer, and you just have one of the outputs go to the house or to the monitor mix, but not the house. And if a band member chooses to get that track of the monitor mix sent to their ears, they can, which the drummer and the bass player obviously would. But yeah, I mean, there's a click track. I mean, I personally, like to use a click track even if I'm not playing keyboards in a band because, again, it keeps everybody on time. A lot of drummers. I mean, you're human. You're going to have a little bit of drift in time. You
Mm.
know, I mean, probably the only drummer I know that could stay 100% on time. In fact, he almost could tell the MIDI clock if it's off. Uh, his name is Tim Hummel from the band Montage. I mean, he is just. I mean, that guy's like a clock. I played with him in the past when I was in a different horn band with him. I mean, his timing. But I mean, there are drummers out there that can do it. But again, a lot of them also there's a slight drift. Not bad. Nobody can tell, but
No, but we can tell when you take an extra quarter beat rest though, and everyone goes to start, and it's like, oh no,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
ripple.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
how many different bands have you been in over the 47 years you've been doing it?
Probably. Oh, gee, that's a good question. Let's going back to Pennsylvania. Oh, I have an interesting story. Yeah. Um, anyway, going back to Pennsylvania, I was in two or three bands there. Like one's a new wave band called we were called the Make. Then I did some fill-in work. I was fortunate enough to progress to the point, like at age 18 or 19, I got to do some fill-in work with some wedding bands with some pretty, pretty well-known names in the area. And I, by the way, it's an interesting thing about my background is I came from the same stomping grounds as Trent Reznor from the Nine Inch Nails. So uh, he ran around with the same group of people I did, and we'd all go to the mall and hang out and play our video games. And, so I knew Trent up to the age 19 or 20, probably, before I went off to college and that type of stuff. So as for local bands I've been in, I've played with Off the Record. I'm currently in a band called Caught in the Act. We are a 9-piece band. We have three horns. So we do, we're like mostly like funk, soul, and classic rock oriented. So we do like a lot of songs from like Tower Power. I'm the bass player in the band, not keyboard player. Like I said, I'm mainly a bass player. So, we do like tunes from Tower Power, Chicago, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, all that type of stuff. Good group of guys. So then I've played with a band called Jumping Parker. I was the founding member of the band called Block Party. Me and another guy were the founding members of Block Party. I'm not in that band right now. Um, I do some fill-in work with the band called Dirty Boogie on occasion, and I also do some fill-in work with Depot Express and a few others, as needed when they call. Um, So yeah, so those are just off the top of my head some of the local bands I've played in, that type.
Awesome.
Oh, I
Um,
also played another band. Another band was out a while ago called Taxi. That was before that was probably about 6 years, 7 years ago, and that was an 8-piece band, very similar to what Caught in the Act is that I'm in now. We were, soul funk horn band type of thing.
what's uh, what's one of the weirdest times you've had at a show?
Oh, geez. That could be a whole show. I know one. I was playing in when I was in a band back in Pennsylvania where I was probably about 20 years old, and I'm standing there playing on stage, and all of a sudden I felt something on my foot, and this is a place I live right on the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania. Okay, from Sharon, Pennsylvania. Um, I mean, literally 5 minutes away is Youngstown, Ohio. 5, 10 minutes away. So anyway, so we're playing over in Niles, Ohio, right over the border, and it's this little small bar. It's like truck stop bar type of thing because there's a big truck stop, a huge truck stop hub there, right across the line of Pennsylvania. So I'm sitting there playing, and I looked down and I felt something across my shoe. I thought it was a cord. I thought it was my guitar cord. And I looked down and my friend said, "Yep, that was a rat." I'm like, "You're kidding me." And I looked over by the drum. It was a rat about that big.
Damn.
And he ran right across my feet. And I'm trying to hold the beat down. I'm sitting there like, wow, that is a big rat.
Right.
And yeah, so that was quite an experience, trying to hold a beat down, and they're sitting there. There's a rats, right there. It was pretty big, pretty big. So
It's like,
that's
hey man,
not
if you're gonna
funny.
be up here, pick something up and play.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
big ass.
Maybe that's how the band Rat got started, or something like that. Maybe they had the same. but that was just like unbelievable. I mean, it was heavy enough to feel the weight across my shoes. I mean, like, I'm glad he didn't crawl up my pant leg or something like that.
Right, it's like a small cat instead of a. Whew,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. So that was probably offhand. That's probably one of the weirdest things I can think of.
You've probably had quite a few times where you've had changes in how you view things and how you're going to be going about doing things with future projects. Those turning points in your life where you're like, well, I'm not going to be doing this. Instead, I'm going to be doing this. Out of all of the times, which point was the most influential on the rest of your music career?
Probably what influenced the biggest direction of my life. I used to, when I started out playing bass, I was more like the heavier stuff. I mean, I grew up listening to like my one of my influences of my childhood. Maybe we can talk about that later. But was like Grand Funk Railroad. Mel Shacker, the bass player, was just phenomenal. If you really listen to some of those albums he did, but starting out, I was a heavier rock. I was more like Led Zeppelin, um, Black Sabbath, uh, you know, um, Cream, maybe, and that type of stuff. But when I started hanging around, like the likes of like the Circle Friends and Trent Reznor, who later on became the Nine Inch Nails, when that's where I got my interest in synthesizers, and also I got more into what I would call new wave type of music. So my favorite styles of music are like soul and funk and new wave. I like all music. Believe me, I like it all. I do like. Yeah, I mean, I've played in every type of band you can imagine, every genre. But I do like a lot of new wave because again, it involves a synthesizer, and I was influenced by Trent Reznor, seeing what he could do and all that stuff. And so that was one influential turning point. And then probably. Um, Yeah, I would say that was probably the main influence I can think of that really changed my course of direction. And and then from that was from the keyboard perspective, and from the bass guitar perspective, um, I was I got really interested in more of the what I call horn based band, uh, like soul style and funk style playing. There's a bass player out of Nashville, Tennessee, who I became friends with. His name is Tony Marvelli, and he plays with well, he does all kind of music, but he was touring with a band called Denver and a Mile High Orchestra, and I met him on when they were a Christian group. They're a Christian big band horn group, Christian music, and when I saw what he can do with and modal progressions and more complex type of stuff, I was influenced more towards horn band type stuff because I really enjoyed the horn band sound and seeing the much more active role of the bass guitar in that style of music. So I was influenced, by him to play more of the soul type style of music.
Have you ever done shows like farther away from where you live? Like not locally?
No, I think the furthest I've traveled was about 4 hours for some wedding gigs. Um, I've had my share of, you drive halfway across the state for a wedding gig and that type of thing. I have not flown out of state, I guess, or driven out of state for a gig. I don't think I've ever done that, other than Pennsylvania, because I was right on the border. We played over in Youngstown, Ohio, Sharon, Pennsylvania area. But no, I haven't. I don't think any of the bands I've played in was big enough to travel more than 4 hours away. That to be on a travel circuit like that type of thing. Um, which is fine with me because the pay. I mean the pay versus time invested, and a lot of times isn't. I mean, at least to me, isn't worth it, So,
It,
well, I think about that. I think about, you brought about the point of all the equipment. As a bass player, back then, years ago, I had the heavy, you know, my equipment, as a bass player, you got to have these big amps. So you're hauling I had my 810 Ampeg with the 300-watt SVT head. And I remember, oh, geez, I remember, uh, playing in Jamestown, Pennsylvania at a place, and it was just snowing so hard that one night. We got like 14 inches of snow that night from like 8 o'clock until 2 in the morning.
man,
And we played that night. And I remember carrying carrying this, having the guys help me carry this Ampeg SVT 810 bottom to my little uh, Datsun B210 hatchback and
man,
sticking that in the back of the car. And the snow was up to our knees, and we're carrying this heavy stuff. And driving home in my car was just, it took me, that was like 45 minutes from where I lived. It took me like 2.5 hours to get home because of the roads. And I didn't get home until like 4 or 5 in the morning. And it was like, yeah. And so those days of the equipment and stuff like that, I mean, hauling equipment was just not fun. I'm just so glad everything's scaled down, with my equipment that I use these days. So
I was gonna say, what do you think about all the changes in music and all of the new stuff that they've been bringing it out? Like a lot of people are saying the um, it's killing the talent of the musicians themselves because they don't have to work as hard. But a lot of people are completely on the other fence on that one. Just that it's
music or the equipment?
the
Music
equipment.
itself?
Well, yeah, because the equipment ends up changing the way you're doing your music.
Okay, because I am very disappointed with music these days, and don't even get me started on the subject. But you turn the radio on, and it's all vocal and just like a drum beat and sound effects. And what people don't realize is there's a lot of music out there that you don't have to be talented to sing in a lot of cases, because there's pitch correction software that can make these people sound good. Okay. And what happened to the days of guitars and bass lines, and now it's just like a drum beat and squeaks and squeals sometimes like that. And then I've had people say to me, one time, I didn't make friends when this happened. I went over to somebody's house one time, and the lady said, "Oh, look what my son wrote." She knew I'm a musician. She said, "Listen to what my son wrote." And I went, listened to it, and that's nothing more than a bunch of loops he put together from software. I said, "Well, no, he didn't write that." She goes, "Yes, he did." I said, "No, he did not write that. That's not writing music. He assembled that from loops." And she kind of got really irritated. And I said, "I hate to tell you, but that is not writing music." I said, "You take and you buy these software that's got these pre-assembled loops, you arrange them, and then they say, 'Oh, look what I wrote.' No, you did not write that. You assembled it." And I'm very, very disappointed with the music industry, that the gone are the days of true talent of a guitar player and a bass player playing, and horns, and whatever it may be. You listen to a lot of music. It's very vocal. I mean, there's a lot of great vocalists, but it's very vocal heavy oriented, very little instrumental oriented. And
Yeah.
and I one time I was in Ocean City, Maryland one time, and this is about 15 20 years ago, probably. And I'm sitting on the boardwalk, and there was this huge concert off on the distance down by the water. Huge. It was back when Mountain Dew had some big skateboarding championship going on. And I'm listening to this music, and it was nothing more than a guy singing and a bunch of all these weird twisting knobs and squeaks and squeals, and a drum beat, and that's it. And there must have been 10,000 people there going crazy, and I just shook my head. I'm just saying, this is sad. This is just really I mean, anybody can go up there and twist knobs and make it squeak and squeal and act like it's all hard to do. you know, you know, I'll leave it at that. Uh, and so that answers the question about music the way it's going these days. Equipment wise, I love what's going on, how things are scaling down. Our good buddy Nick Smith the other day nailed it really well on your interview with him about how you used to go from that big SVT A10 cabinet. Now you're down to a box this big that runs into the house front of, the modeling. And speaking from an electrical engineer perspective that I am, I can appreciate the circuitry and the modeling that has gone into replacing a lot of these amps. And I'm very impressed with a lot of some of the products out there. Um, but I mean, I still use an amp on stage too because I like to feel it in my chest a little bit, the presence and the band. I notice the difference when I don't have an amp, and I notice the difference in the cohesion of the band when that bass is not there with an amp. So I still use an amp on stage to kind of tie everybody together because I mean, you can get into the psychology of music, but really the essence of keeping people on track and the groove of the band really still comes down to the bass player and the drums. And if the bass is not present enough, strong enough in the monitor mix, and you have like a little box like this, your band does play differently. The groove is differently. So, but I'm very impressed with a lot of the musical equipment that's out there these days. Guitars have come a long way too. I have different guitars for different tools for different things. And they all sound different. And same as can be said about guitar and amp modeling hardware.
Nice, nice. I kind of wanted to hit up on that music thing where you said that you can't understand a lot of the music that's out there these days, and I kind of want to point out a point. The things that are going on in music right now is back in the early 90s when hip hop was really starting to make a turn. Somebody called NWA into a meeting and said, "We want you to keep promoting all of this violent stuff, all of this drug use stuff, okay, influence people to be a part of this lifestyle, and we will give you a percentage of these prisons." They're like, "What the fuck does these prisons got to do with us?" They turned it down. But other people have been picking that up. And the same thing with metal. There have been old executives that have come out and said that with metal music, the reason why they have turned more towards bands that you can't understand is because during those shows, they're able to implant lyrics that are actually spells and open up portals and rituals as an entire concert. And at first I was like, okay, well, that could just be one thing. But the more you look at it and the more performances you see from a lot of people coming out are mainly a lot of satanic ritualistic things that are happening on stage as well as their lyrics.
Oh wow.
And I kind of wanted to know, because you have such experience in so many different genres of music, have you noticed a overall vibe change at bigger shows as time has progressed on? Like back in the day, it was a lot of partying, a lot of good vibes, a lot of having fun. Has it turned into a lot more, you feel more negative, more, I want to stay away from this? Have you noticed that in bigger shows?
I think it depends on the artist. Like for example, I like listening to hip hop. Okay, I'll put some hip hop on sometime. Um, the same could be said for new wave. The same could be said for rock. Um, some of it's negative. You know, people used to really uh, what's the word I wanted for? They used to knock hip hop because it's all bad. All it is just negative negative messages. But there's plenty of hip hop artists out there that are talking about normal everyday life, fun things. Uh, you could say like Black Sabbath, for example, lean towards the dark side. Okay, but then there's many other bands that talk positive. Like Rush. They're a very positive band. They aren't talking about sex and drugs and rock and roll as much as they are more like about everyday life around you. The world around us. So I think it depends on the artist. Because I think no matter what genre you select, you're going to find artists that misuse it or use it for the right purpose.
You haven't seen artists that they used to make really positive stuff and now they don't.
I can't think of anybody offhand. I
it's
don't. I can't
it's
think of anybody that switched to the dark side. Yeah.
yeah, it's mainly a lot of things I've noticed. Well, a lot of the things that I see are mainly in hip hop, just because that's where my face has really been in the last like couple years. Um, and yeah, there are a lot of reports and of people that are willing to sign a lot of these contracts. Now, when you get into these contracts that are ending up in like 50 million, $100 million contracts, they end up wanting you to sacrifice somebody. And there have been videos of people that have been going on live, on their social medias, after they sign a contract and they're ready to sacrifice this person. Now they get abducted. Now it's happening, and now they're rethinking everything, and they're like, "Oh my God, I don't want this. They took my kid. They woo woo woo," And the next thing you know, the kid is found, or no, it's not found, and that person is rich, just really depressed. Like it's a really unfortunate thing that happens, and um, it's one of the reasons I like the local shows more, is because the local shows aren't tainted by all of that extra stuff. It's not okay, well, we'll give you this, but you have to push more this way or anything like that. It's more um, the power of. I mean, the vibe of everything is really in control of the people in attendance, and if everybody here just wants good things and having fun, then that's all there's going to be. And that's really what I like about the local shows more than going to any of the bigger ones anymore.
And yeah, they're more personal too. I like
Yeah.
I myself enjoy local music more than I do national national acts because, well, first of all, you're so far removed. Okay, again, I like to get into philosophy of music a lot, so pardon me, but music is an experience that it's something you experience at the deepest part of your soul, your emotion. And when you are, at least for me, when I'm at a concert, like a major concert, like let's say if I go see Rush or if I go see Depeche Mode or whatever, I am so far away from the band that they're about this big to me on stage. I don't share that personal experience. Whereas if I go see one of the local bands, I mean, I'm really in the groove. I'm right there, 15 feet from the guy performing. I'm watching him putting his heart and soul into his bass playing or his drumming or his guitar. You connect on a deeper level locally, as far as I'm concerned, than you do now with a national act because you're so far. You're 30 rows away. So I'd much rather go see somebody local. You know, and I have not really gone to a lot of major concerts. I've only seen Rush, like Depeche Mode, and I love Blue Man Group. They're phenomenal. I love Blue Man Group. Those I saw them at the Bradley Center when it was there, and I was just that was probably the best show I've ever seen. I saw Kiss, uh, and I saw Kansas and Heart and stuff like that. But I think the ones I enjoyed most would be like Rush and probably the Blue Man Group. That was just an experience. The light show and just the sound. Those guys are fun. A lot of fun.
See, normally I'd also ask if you can go on tour in a band with anybody, who would it be? But that's really normally a pretty, well, easier question because there's more people that are directly on one instrument. But since you're like, oh man, see, I'd like to play bass for them, but I'd also like to be their keyboardist. So it's like, I know it'll be a little bit harder for you, but yeah, if you could go out and go on and replace somebody on their tour, what band would it be?
A band I would probably do is because of my Christian background. I'm involved with the church, and I play in the church praise and worship band. Um, a band I would love to tour with. There's a band called Denver and a Mile High Orchestra. I mentioned them earlier with my friend Tony Marvelli. He was the bass player. That would be something I would enjoy because they play like big band, swing jazz type of music, and they're a lot of fun. They mix comedy with it, and they're a good bunch of guys. So something like that, I would love to tour with. I would probably would love to be. I'm not good enough for Depeche Mode, but it'd be awesome if I could go play with them as just like uh, an auxiliary keyboard player. But yeah, probably I'd probably say Denver and a Mile High Orchestra would be one of them. But if I had to assemble my own local team to go play, I think the ideal, I'm just trying to think. Probably one of the best guitar players I think I've ever played with would be like his name is Don Wolf. Um, Probably the drummer, the best drummer would be like Tim Hummel, uh, me on bass, and then yeah, that's vocalist. Oh, geez, there's a lot of vocalists. So I don't know. If I was putting my own band together, that's who I would grab on first, probably. You know, but
It's crazy with the Christian background. I didn't. The first thing that came to my mind was I was expecting you to kind of say Skillet,
oh
because that's one I
yeah,
would. That's definitely mine. Is definitely because, they're one of those bands that actually John Cooper's come out and said that they got offered that. What I was talking about earlier. They got offered. They said, he was told, he got invited to an after party with a bunch of big wigs over at a bowling alley somewhere. So he didn't really want to go, but it was big wigs, so he went, and he got sat down and told by somebody that said, if you stop talking about God and take him out of your shows, we can make you billionaires. You guys will be the next biggest thing in the entire world. You guys will never go out. And everything. They were offered the big deal.
yeah.
And he was even told, you don't even have to take him out permanently. You, yeah, bullshit. But just for now, take him out. So that way you can get to the top, and then you can do whatever you want. Yeah, bullshit. By then you're on contract, but uh,
Yeah,
and he stayed out of that. He rejected the offer, and they're still a band that gets paid tens of thousands of dollars per show. After all these years, they still have a following. They even have younger people still has a following. So it's like that's a sign right there. If any of you local bands or artists in any way get approached by a big label and they want you to take God out of your shit, that's the number one sign to run the fuck away.
and I don't understand it because I don't know why. I mean, there's plenty. I don't know understand why people are afraid of Christian music because I tell you, some of the best musicians I've ever played with are actually in the churches. I mean, some of these people I've played with, I've seen some of these guys that are just their chord struck. I mean, they're playing 5 finger chords with their thumbs and they're just lightning fast. And they've never played in these rock band, and so some of these best musicians I've ever seen are in the church. I'm just blown away at some of these people I've seen play. And but I don't know why. I mean, everybody thinks if God and Christianity is mixed in music, it has to be like angelic sounding, and so people have this connotation that it has to be a certain way, and it's got to be really um, ethereal sounding like Enya or no, there's plenty of Christian music that is soul or jazz or funk that it's the words that matter. You know,
Yeah.
it's the word. And the thing is, you got the same rhythm beat. You enjoy the beat. You enjoy the music, and there's a good positive message. And I don't. I mean, people don't realize this. People want a positive message in this world. They're sick and tired of turning on the news, and the news is done more. The new.
I'm agreeing over here. Go for it. Keep going.
Tell you one thing. I can talk for hours about so many different subjects, but the news has done more to divide the United States along political lines, or
Every
and
line.
causing hate and dissension between person A and person B. The news has done more danger than anybody. And we won't go into detail, but if you want to look at who knows the three major news companies, if you go way to the top CEOs, there's a new world order that there's a reason they want people to have all this dissension. It was done in Marxism. They said it back then. Rush even said it. You guys will destroy yourselves from within. And that's exactly what is going on in America. But I won't go down that subject. That's a whole 4 hour discussion I can get into. But the point is, you know, um, I think Christian music. There's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot of good Christian music. I don't think now. There's been some bands that are out there doing Christian music, and um, they're gyrating their crotch and right in front of the girl's face. I think that's a mixed message there. I don't agree with that. I won't mention that band, but they were known for doing that in the 80s. And, to me, I don't think, if Jesus is standing right next to there, he would probably just be like,
Yep.
you know, but, but there's plenty of good music that is rock music that is also Christian oriented, that has a positive message, and they aren't gyrating on stage like that.
Man, like I
But I'm
said,
not gonna. I don't want to sound like a freak, but I'm not. But I'm just.
right. Well, I highly recommend anyone that even just likes rock or metal, like take a listen to a lot of those Christian metal bands, Christian rock bands. Like I said, Skillet is a great one because, like when you're listening to the riffs, when you're listening to them jam, when you're listening to the words, like you would never know that they're a Christian band until wait, they're a Christian band? Wait, let me listen to it again. Holy fuck, that is about God. Yeah. You didn't even know. So it's like, there's a
Well,
lot of good out there.
here's a perfect example. There's a song by Black Sabbath called "After Forever." I think that's what it's called, "After Forever." Okay. Originally, if I understand this right, I was watching a documentary on Black Sabbath, and originally they did not pursue the dark side of music that they became known for. Okay. Originally they had a couple, you could call them a positive Christian message. If you listen to the words of the song "After Forever," it really makes you think about, being a Christian and standing up, and not being afraid of peer pressure or what people are going to think of you. Check that out. But they chose at one point, they said, well, let's start writing scary music. And I think that's the word they use. Let's write scary music. And it's stuck, and that's kind of the direction they took. But there's an example of a song that could be rock oriented, and it has a positive message. If you listen to the words of those songs, I think it's pretty cool. You know, but so again, it's the words and the message, and I don't think people care. The first thing that grabs you on a song is the music, not the words. Okay, so once if you get someone interested in the melody and the rhythm, the words are secondary, and if you can put a positive message instead of negative, I think I am willing to bet that uh, uh, statistically, I would say 80% of people would rather hear a positive message of the same music. They would probably rather hear a positive message than the same old sex and drugs and rock and roll and bad news and blah blah blah. Because people want to feel happy whether they know it or not.
Yeah, there are a lot of older musicians from those times that did go down that dark path and then tried redeeming. Black Sabbath is one of them. Alice Cooper was another, where he got his name from a Ouija board. You know what I mean? Like he was really into that shit because he was really Vincent Furnier. And they asked a Ouija board, "What should I name my band?" Alice Cooper. That's what it came out.
Didn't know
So
that. Kind of cool.
yeah, well, his father was a preacher, pastor.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
So after he's gone through, you know, his times in rehab, his times in, I think in the year 72, he went through $74,000 worth of alcohol in that one year. I
Wow.
remember reading. Um, he was in a lot of bad places. And for like really years, ever since Trash album, you really didn't hear too much from him until he came out of nowhere with Brutal Planet album.
Uh-huh.
And that album was one of the most Christian fucking pieces of metal I have ever heard. Every song on there is very heavy, except for of course a ballad. But everything on there is very heavy. But like the song "Gimme" will be about, the greed and the snake that'll come out. I'll give you everything you want. You know what I'm saying? Just
Yeah.
it speaks for itself right there. That when you now make an album that is awesome like that, and then you go to make another album that's kind of like back towards your old ways, and you don't recreate that, and it's not so much of a success. You really start to look back. Now, Alice Cooper isn't really doing too much of music or even too much of golf. He's now more involved in the church and
Yeah.
music in the church and local shit. So yeah, if you're ever in his area, go check us out. I know probably no one's
I'd
ever seen
actually
this.
like to beat him. Like to beat him sometime in person. That'd be one of my goals. I like the fact that he eventually became more focused on his Christian walk. And I think that's great. And in fact, one of my all-time favorite albums is still the old Alice Cooper. It's probably one of my top three favorite albums. Would be Alice Cooper's Greatest Hits album. And I still put that on. I play that so freaking loud. My kids would say, "Dad, turn that." I mean, all my life I grew up with my parents tell me to turn my music down. Okay, you turn it down. Then when I got older, I'm like, I can play my music as loud as I want. Then my kids, Dad, turn that down. I crank that freaking dial up as much as I can, and I don't give it. I don't care what the heck anybody thinks. Just my music is loud. Neighbors complain still. Next door, she'll come over and say, "I heard you last night around 11 o'clock. Your music is a little loud."
I'm like, yeah, you've known this the whole time I've lived here.
Yeah, but Alice Cooper. The last time I got in trouble was the Alice Cooper album playing about 11:30 at night, really loud. You know.
If you do get the chance to meet him, just keep in mind he doesn't remember a lot of things. One of the times my dad met him, he asked him a specific question. He was all like, "You did a special, you were on Midnight Special with so and so like years ago, and on this episode you did this or said that." And he just before he could even finish the question, he was like, "Dude, I honestly don't remember anything from that area of time." Like, and it's like, wow, you really were partying hard over there. You really did go through a lot of shit over there. You lost
Yeah.
years of your life. And it's like, damn.
Yeah. So the positive message, it's nice to, I enjoy playing my bass with, any chance I get, you know. Uh, like I said, I have some of the kids hanging here on the wall in the tool shed. I like to use them for all the different genres of music I like to play.
Right. All right. Well, what bands are you in now, and where can people find you?
I am currently in a band called Caught in the Act. Saturday, January 6th at Maddie's Bar in downtown Waukesha. And January 24th at Pioneer Bowl up in Richfield, Wisconsin. And we do a lot of gigs like at Pioneer Bowl in the winter. We have some private weddings in the month of January, February. So a lot of those are some corporate and private weddings. So that wouldn't be public. But then as we get into spring, you can watch for us. We play a lot of the outdoor festivals. The first one coming up will be Menominee Falls Street Festival. We usually have that every year. Um, so yeah, and so those are the ones off right off the top of my head I can think of, you know. And then again, like I said, I do fill in work with Dirty Boogie and Depot Express sometimes too. And I'm trying to put together right now a three-piece band. I'd like to do a little trio project where I just get a guitar player and a drummer and me on bass and some keys, you know. So I might come out with something soon like that. I'm trying to put some musicians together right now for that. So, you
Awesome.
know,
Where can people find your band? You guys got a page somewhere on Facebook or anything? Or
yeah, yeah, you could look us up on Facebook. Look for just type in Caught in the Act and you'll see our Facebook page there. And yeah, and then, or if anybody wants any bookings with us, you can instant message me or you can find me on Facebook, Douglas Reed. Look for Douglas Reed on Facebook. You'll see me there and you can instant message me there. But yeah, the band page is there on Facebook also as well. I do want to say though, um, I think as a kudos to you, I recently discovered you and I am very impressed with you. And I want you to know, I'm sure I'm speaking on the behalf of many musicians. I think it is wonderful what you are doing for this community to further musicians and the music industry in this area. And you had a guest, Nick Smith, who I would also like to give some kudos to. I have the utmost respect for Nick Smith and what he has done for this community. His guitar for vets coming up on February 3rd at the Q Club. I mean, this guy, um, he, he puts together a picnic in the summer and invites a bunch of musicians at his expense. And of those you don't know, Nick, he's a fantastic cook. He used to be a chef, so his picnic was just phenomenal. And likewise to you, um, I I I really respect what you're doing. That you are bringing to the community musicians, so we can get to know them better, their personalities, and who they are. And too often you see people in a band setting, or whatever. It's like this: you cross paths, you say, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" Maybe 1 or 2 seconds, but you get. I look forward to so many more guests that you're going to have because I want to get to know people on their personality basis. I learned stuff about Nick I never knew. Okay, so I want to encourage you to keep up the good work. I think I'm impressed with what I saw, and I'm excited for the next episode of whoever it may be.
awesome. Thank you very much. It really does make the difference of in those times where things are not going well and you're just like, you know what, screw it. And then you think of times when people say things like what you just said, and it's like, nope, nope, I'm just going to keep on going because, this actually does mean something and it really means a lot to hear it. It really
You got
does.
me wanting more. For example, like I said, it becomes a personal experience because now you're not on a national TV show. You're bringing it home to say, "Oh my gosh, I know that guy."
Hmm.
It's interesting, and you learn stuff about him that you would have never known talking to him at a club for 2 or 3 minutes.
Yep.
Hey, how you doing? How's it good? Blah blah blah. Because you're usually in a hurry, limited time. You got to go to the bathroom before you got to get back up on the next set, whatever. I mean, there's just, you know, and I don't know. I get to talk. I can talk about so many different things. I'm sorry if I write it off. I'm like a pinball machine sometimes. You have to pardon me. I I bounce around a lot with subjects, but I wanted to say that kudos to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And, thank you for, your years. You were actually referred to me because of everything you've done and the amount of um, little nuggets of wisdom you have in a lot of different aspects to help people out. Everybody that's watching, do not forget to like and subscribe to not only us, but to Caught in the Act. Make sure you get out to their shows. And keep shit flowing on. Until next time, don't do anything I wouldn't do, and if you do, name it after me.